I don't know if I promise I make this video, but I did say I'd make this video. So uh, uh, this was something I did want to do, is just go over um, some of my favorite fashion collections. Um, and I did say it was a lot. So this is obviously, if you see the duration of the video, maybe this will be a part two, maybe not. I can do this all in one. Um, some of my examinations will be a little more informed than the others, because some of the collections that I like aren't just that like readily available and have reviews like instantly findable for me to get a little knowledge on it. Even though these are things that I've pretty much digested for, is maybe over the last like 5-10 years. um and basically what they cover are just, how they impact me, relate to my taste, and some of them I've kind of pulled them, almost not even necessarily that they are my favorite, but they represent one of my favorite designers, or the impact that this artist has for me. And I feel like they're a good summation of all their characters or all their collections impact on me. So I do want to say that first and foremost. And none of these are in any particular from favorite to least favorite order. It's more of just I went to the ones I instantly knew, at least as I looked for the designers. I didn't even look out specific time of the collections, like a fall, winter, 95, or yada yada. I just had like certain designers in mind that I knew made some things that I've enjoyed over the years. And I took like quick glances to see, which ones. Some of them were definitely more instant, like, oh yeah, that's one, bring that over. That's the other, bring that over. Um, and so yeah, that's how it worked. And some of them, I had to do a wider scope to make sure I wasn't missing anything, because that's just how it goes. Because there's even some in here where some designers that just didn't make the cut, that have been my favorite designers in a time, but didn't necessarily as a whole make a favorite collection. Because there was some that I felt that, or just to my memory, I thought were in the same collection as like two different designs, and I thought it was like such a thorough collection, and then it turned out that it just wasn't the case, that these were two separate things, two different ideas that a designer had across different collections, and it never really came together into one, regardless if they've done a good amount of work that I do respect, and everything like that. I thought my hoodie was zipped up all the way. Sorry. There's gonna be some continuity issues as far as how this hoodie placement goes. But yeah, I've spoken enough. Sorry. Let's get into it. And thank you to Mari, a dear friend of mine, who actually just unprompted gave me the this website to use that I guess I knew about before, because I already had an account when I signed up, but they brought this back into my head as far as what I needed to use, and so this was a perfect thing. I think it worked better than like Pinterest would, in this type of scenario. So this worked out pretty well. So yeah, let's get right into it. We're gonna start from top to bottom. Just a heads up, like I said, this is no specific order, but this is a pretty robust list. Um, at the end of the day, I ended with about, I think, 29. I'm not a good counter, be honest with you. I lose count all the time at the gym, but um, it ended up being, to my belief, it is, if it ain't 29, nigga, it's still 20, and that's enough for me and you. God bless. Let me show all my tabs. Um, but yeah, hi YouTube. How you doing, baby girl? This is the first collection. The first collection is Saint Laurent. Oh my god. This first collection is Saint Laurent Rive Gauche Fall 2000 by Eddie Slimane. And I did see some interesting, notes on some of his collections, but that is that's for a little bit later. This one I can have a little bit more of a superficial view on these type of things. This is one of my favorite collections, just because a lot of my favorite collections, just to start off as an overview of myself. I do enjoy, even though these can be maybe a little flamboyant to the average person. I think that a big theme that I find myself coming back to is expressions of like masculinity, but almost like they're reflecting modernity, like the modern man, and what kind of may straddle the line of wearability, but it's still wearable. You know what I mean? So when you take a look at like things like this, like, yeah, it's like fancy and it's all leather, but low key you could still, it's still wearable. The sleeveless one, just a good look. I think this is just, hey Slimane, I have had like my back and forth with some of his stuff, but I'll probably always be a fan. These silhouettes alone are perfect. A lot of things that don't get brought up too much is kind of like broader, more niche ideals of fantasy. When speaking about fashion, and to me, these remind me of like, no pun intended or whatever the fuck, but Final Fantasy. And in specific, there's a movie called Final Fantasy Advent Children. And the history of that is just that obviously Final Fantasy is a big series, but in this specific movie, it's like a time skip of whatever happened in the game, and all the characters come back wearing all black. And to me, it's more akin to that than this would be of something like The Matrix. I don't know. Do with that with you. Well, it felt like I feel like a light bulb went off in my head, but I have nothing to say about that. But yeah, I relate to Final Fantasy more than I would The Matrix. The Matrix is sci-fi, but to me, this feels more like an action game. This feels like Final Fantasy. This is what I would have a Final Fantasy character wear. And even if you go to, I think, Final Fantasy 15, where there's this character named Noctis, and this one kind of converges with Eddie Slimane in a way, because people kind of affiliated their look with like a boy band, because you're rolling around with friends in like a drop top Mercedes Benz or something, or a drop top Rolls Royce looking type of thing. And this feels more like that. It might feel like a little more boy band than it would like Hacker Avatar. Although, depending on who you're asking, I think it is, very arguable, whatever, that it's probably an arguable that they're interchangeable. You probably could work this into the Matrix, and if you did, I don't think I'd have a complaint. So, but that's just where I'm leaning with that one. Again, that was Saint Laurent Rive Gauche, fall 2000, and 100% I will be mispronouncing things. I'm ignorant. What can I say? Let's move on to the next one. But this one is Eddie Slimane at Dior this time. A little time skip for him as himself. And this one, it feels fantasy as well. This is kind of a thing that Eddie Slimane, at least at Celine, didn't go for too much. There are some pieces in there that I did like that did kind of lean towards these last two collections I showed. But yeah, again, this one, it's fantasy. It's an expression of the male identity. It's gothic. This is it feels a little in the terrain of like older collections of like Anne de Meulemeester or On de Meulemeester. But in any regard, yeah, the fantasy aspect of this, it's Final Fantasy, it's Star Wars, it's Devil May Cry. It builds. It's more than rock and roll with these, which I really enjoy. Like a rock singer could wear this. This may be like more so, like K of the J-pop rock or J-rock, however you want to say that. More leaning to that kind of rock than opposed to like the American rock that we're used to and some of the European rock. But for me, it feels beyond that. Like even when the J-pop guys do it, it feels beyond rock to me. It feels fantasy. It feels like the concept artist. If you don't know of like the major Final Fantasy series, this feels more akin to him. But awesome pieces. I love the moodiness of it. I always dig a moody haircut. I think that's maybe the Kurt Cobain and Anakin Skywalker fan in me, but yeah, 100%. All right, let's move along here. This next one, another Eddie Slimane collection, where it's one of the collections. There were other people that had got similar flack, but there is not necessarily a disdain. Hold on. By the way, this is Saint Laurent, fall 2013. But I wouldn't say there was a disdain for this collection, but there was a clear whoever reviewed this on Vogue, I don't give a fuck. Just for clarification, like I'm not going for the name. They didn't like it. They didn't feel like it was runway worthy. They felt that you could make this collection yourself by going thrifting. How I feel about that, I feel like go fuck yourself because I like this. You know, they're actually they're similar shit, and I like that you can do that. You can build a lifestyle around this kind of brand, but at the end of the day, everybody knows this. You're not gonna get this though. That's the idea of it. You can build it with this. You can build a wardrobe with this in mind. And granted, there have been, almost a resurgence in the secondhand seller market, specifically because of Eddie Slimane looks, rightfully so. But come on, nigga, like it's just you're just not gonna get this. You're not necessarily gonna get this anywhere else. If you can attempt to do it, like I'm for it, and I'm with it myself. Like that's part of why my drip is the way it is, because I look for clothes that do look like this collection, or I seen somebody get close to a certain, like, build off this aesthetic with mixing pieces of this with vintage shit. Like that's the cool part about it. And maybe they didn't know that would build this kind of like cult following for Eddie Slimane, but I like these collections. There's definitely some pieces I still want to this day, if not all of it except the skinny jeans. But yeah, I think shit like this is awesome. I think that there was no actual clarification if these actually were just random musicians that he found to cast in this. But I think if that's the case, that's even cooler. Because it adds just to it. But yeah, man. Whoever was hating on this nigga, you were kind of wrong. I think his reputation speaks for himself. All right, next on the list. Next on the list is Balmain Fall 2016. This one is a little interesting because I'm here and there. This was a little interesting because I'm here and there on the collection. Like, not all of it I like, but I do have to kind of, this is one of those ones where it's like I put this in here because I am a fan of Oliver Rousting, if that's how you say his name. It could be Olivier, but I think it's Oliver Rousting. That being said, I'm a fan of him. I'm a fan of his longevity at the brand and the fact that he's a black creator at a major house and has been doing this for a long time without the acknowledgement. Like, not a lot of people say this. Not a lot of people bring him up in that regard, for whatever reason. Maybe, for sexual orientation or because he's foreign. But he is a black designer, and at one of the highest levels, he's dressed some of the biggest stars, and has put out just amazing collections that don't just give off understanding of design, but understanding the concept of idealized luxury in a way that it looks expensive. Not, oh, it's just, it costs a lot to make this kind of thing. Like some shit you look at and you're just like, wow. You know what I mean? This looks like fashion. So yeah, we're gonna go through this 65 looks, and I'm gonna talk about why I like this. There's the level, like I said, the level of quality you can see on this kind of design is amazing to me. It has similar tropes or similar ideas, this specific collection, to things that are like Heather Ackerman. Um, but you have this coat with this this mariachi coat with an insane pattern. And it's not necessarily a mariachi coat. But it is. Or a bolero jacket. Where he has this collarless collar underneath that's like the base layer. There's a shirt on top of it, the leather tassels over the belt. Like he really dug into the aesthetic of like militarism and the ornamentals of it, and the uniform of it, and everything about it looks quality. Like I said, I wouldn't really wear skinny jeans, but everything about this, like this is luxury fashion, but it's also costume. Like this could be in a movie and should be. Someone compared it to Dune, and I thought that was an amazing. The reviewer of this show compared it to Dune, and I thought it was amazing because the some of the ideals of Dune pre Denis Villeneuve was, especially with Alejandro Jodorowsky and and Mobius. Dune was imagined to a lot of people before the recent films as colorful space, and this gives that idea. And it's not only just photographic, but it delivers that, very awesomely. And the reason why I'm here and there on this collection is just because like there are things that even the reviewer had an issue with, which was just the drop crotch pants, which I agree, it takes away from it. It's too much blending of like different worlds. And it's an example of like the modernity that Rousting was bringing to the collections. But regardless, there's still just so much there on the of everything else. You know what I mean? So it's almost unfortunate. Like it's so good that the bad parts are just unfortunate. Whereas to like, and I think that's a good example of what Balmain is that it's just really good, and then there's just certain parts that's like, oh, it's a shame that's like that's there. You know what I mean? Because everything else about this is it's peak. This is amazing. Where this one, another bolero jacket, and Balmain always have these rich details of sewing in their jackets that are just unmatched. The patterns are just crazy. And this one looks like the shoulder tassels are sewn in it in a very Baroque way. It's just crazy. And before I started this video, I didn't necessarily, crazy boots, by the way. I didn't take a refreshing look at these because I wanted my reaction to them to be a little fresh. All the thing I did was just read the reviews, which I never do. Because I don't want to feel swayed by like ideals that sometimes may like try to explain a show that visually what I consider it to be, to try to like it feels unimportant. We do need fashion reviewers. I'm not saying like that thing shouldn't exist, but I think there's just there can be politics in it, and there's politics in everything. But to me, fashion almost only feels purely visual, not in an ignorant way, but just in a there's too much of it of a system of imposing higher class ideals to try to make it more than that. Because again, it is political, but even if you were to make some type of try to make some type of statement to me, or bring awareness to certain things, it's like you're still selling this to an upper class regime, if that makes sense. But like I said, I could be very ignorant about this, and maybe I'll have to talk to somebody about that. That being said, back to the things at hand. This one, when the outfits on here come together in a cohesive idea, it's generally just amazing. Like the boots are 10 out of 10. The jacket and just everything put together it's amazing. So this probably is my single favorite Balmain collection. I can't say whether it has all my favorite Balmain designs in it, but for me it is peak. There's just a lot here that's great. Even this one is like drop crotch, and I don't even necessarily mind it. I don't think that's drop crotch actually, but it's like sweatpants and bikers, but it actually blends really well. It's like marching band biker pants at the same time, or military pants, whatever you want to call it. And then all around just great pieces, like a fur vest. I mean, look at this. This is like, it's nothing wrong. It's all right about this. There's the long gloves, but they're scrunched up. And sometimes, I'm not the greatest fan of long gloves, but when you make the silhouette work, like, you can't be mad at long gloves, bro. And I would say this is maybe the single co-ed Balmain show where the women's clothes take second place to the men's. Because granted, there are some good women's clothes, but I just think that there's just a certain level that's hitting on the men's clothes here. I mean, that's last look, like the amount of detail and just quality and just how insane, almost artisanal, Balmain is on a regular without doing that many couture shows. Like this is crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. And I went past it, but even if you saw the metal collar underneath, it's just a great touch. I think I'll leave off of this one just to leave you guys with, if you really want to take a look at yourself, you can go through it, and find more. But again, I mean, this is great. This is great. It brings a military aspect to denim that has been mainly repurposed for casual wear. even though to my knowledge, and hopefully it's not confabulated, but denim was originally a military creation. Um, so, but it was for like work, you know what I mean? Still. And so for it to be like repurposed in this kind of militaristic uh look here is pretty fucking cool, man. Um, but I'll leave that one where it's at, and we'll go on to the next thing. This one is Dirk Bickenberg. Um, and Dirk Bickenberg is, I would say, they were masters at sporty fashion. Very short-lived output of like quality designs. There was just a weird fall off. I don't know if anybody knows why, but there's just a vibe here, man. there's just a look here where they just, when they were on top, they just did sporty looks very well. Um, and there's a little bit of like the heron chic heavy eyeshadow. Don't know why I'm highlighting that, but obviously it's a part of it, which makes which makes the sportiness even more interesting. It gives it a edgy look. Because what's better than sports? Evil sports. So yeah, Dirk Bickenberg, and I chose this one as just more of a representation of. I mean, I do like this collection a lot, but it's a general highlight of their whole run when they were just doing like great collections, and they also often had soccer or football themes that are also some of my favorites. Just general fashion. So if you get a chance, yeah, or if you don't know about them already, a lot of people, if it, whatever, man, whatever, man. This one is Marath Francois Chabot. Fucking hate French, bro. No, I'm joking. But yeah, Marath Francois Chabot, is how you say it. Fall 2005. This one is pretty cool because it's a like kind of a neo-western kind of thing. And if you don't know, I was in a very deep western hole. Pause at a point in my life. So that'll always stick with me. And this one is pretty fucking cool, if you ask me. Look at that. Let's zoom in on this swagged out old lady, one of the designers. Just awesome, They had this very artistic approach to conventional ideas, military in their own way, purposeful in their own way, practical in their own way, that I really enjoy. And they have even just like non-fashion collection, or yet non like runway items that just are just like really cool designs. They're like campy but practical in some way. And like again, I think this one is a good representation of their run as a whole. I don't even know if they particularly like fell off per se. Like when I look at their uh, archive, but they kind of just stopped designing for one reason or another. So shout out to Marie Francois Chabot. Um, Next one is Alexander McQueen, and I'm a little mad I couldn't find a good enough review on this one. But Alexander McQueen Fall 2000. This one, another one that is just a general. I'm using this as an avatar to speak on my general like for Alexander McQueen. And this collection is generally interesting because it takes themes from African aesthetics, and he twisted into his own dark, freaky ideals. Obviously, one of the masters, R.I.P. And I mean, what can you say? He just generally just did cool ass shit. And my first thought when I think of how this was inspired by African aesthetics, I think of how much is created in a derivative of that by more white creators. It's like on one hand, I want to give him props for at least expanding his lens, even if it is, under the white gaze. But I mean, he cooks. He does, and yeah, and so I wonder like how many derivatives we've got of this that were just unstudied of the general aesthetic where he got this aesthetic from. Um, and he always pushed edginess and maxed with just quality. There's just nothing, more I can personally say about that comes to mind. I think it's just a cool collection that it exemplifies how he was able to be weird, but also just exemplify the strangeness on top of luxury fashion. Yeah. And he'd probably be the only designer I'd probably say that like actually is strange, but it's just good. Like a lot of people now, even if they're like avant-garde, I might not think it's strange, but it is like different, and I understand that they're going for a similar aesthetic, but his just got weird in the best ways. Next up is number 9, Fall 2003. I believe this collection is called Touch Me, I'm Sick, based off of Kurt Cobain, very obviously. And I did speak on being a Kurt Cobain enjoyer earlier. And I mean, that's generally just what I like about this collection. It's very much that aesthetic that I've kind of always liked, the moodiness, the grunge. I love some good grunge, man. It's cool as fuck. Oh, that's it. That's all I have of it. Oh wait, no, that's Cap. What the fuck? They're selling me. Why are they selling me? What's going on here? Um, but yeah, there's just a lot of like cool mixing of layers here, like spotted shirts under a black blazer, but with a all white outfit, and then red, white, and blue socks. Like it's just cool. It's just generally cool. It's just great layering. You've got pajamas that were just marketed as like, wear it if you want. Holy shit, my screen just froze. This video is brought to you by OBS. They'll fuck you and they'll funk you good. No, I'm joking. It's literally my computer. My computer's just ass. But yeah, I mean the iconic number 9 hearts, but made as an all over patch blazer. Just, beautiful browns. Yeah, man. And this was, made by Takahiro Miyashita. I think this is one that also counts as just a great overall, just an avatar for how much I enjoy this designer who has had two clothing lines. Number 9 was not his clothing line. This was a line that, like a house or something, a brand that he's no longer a part of, but still exists to my knowledge. And now he has his own. Takahiro Miyashita, the soloist, but he's always drawn from rock and just otherness and alternative. It's cool. It's cool. I love it, and one of those brands that I wish I could just wear all the time and just have a nice collection of. This one coming up, our next one is Undercover Spring 2006. This is a designer, Junio Takahashi. This is another collection avatar of, again, my general like. I actually was surprised by my ability to not find like a specific collection that was like, oh, this is the one. But he has such an archive and idea of expressing himself over the years that it just built into this, like, my fondness for him. So we're gonna take a look real quick. And so 53, we might not go through all of them, but just this one alone was interesting because he goes again for like this, and this one doesn't necessarily feel like McQueen weird, but this does go to just it does play with those kinds of motifs. And what I enjoy about him, this one had like t-shirts that were called like the Amazing Zaming, and I think it was based off of like vintage like German or like prog rock bands, and so he kind of created his own mythos of that. And I was always fond of this brand because it would have these like made up slogans that weren't just on the nose homages to the brand, you know what I mean? It would create themes and almost create a brand within a brand. To me, that's more interesting than just slapping the brand's logo on there and doing a new design with it. I am not necessarily like a fan of that most of the time. I like creating an idea with it, you know what I mean? And it's some logo that just doesn't belong to anything, or it's obscured at this point. So he did a lot of that in this collection, and along with that, he was constantly reinterpreting t-shirts, which just came out to just cool designs. just fire shit. And yeah, so this was just a constant thing within his career of Undercover. So yeah, I like that. Like this one's like a blazer with like a t-shirt kind of like on top of it, or transitioned on the bottom. Um, just always just some cool shit. Like he would always make new logos and new names that just, like, if you didn't know Undercover, like you just wouldn't know this belonged to one brand. Amazing shirt, by the way, and he's kind of responsible for a lot of the just a lot of the designs that look like this. Like he's just, he kind of followed a lot of streetwear trends, as guys like him would do. So good for him. Yeah. But I think we'll do like two more looks and I'll kind of like move on just to keep this ball rolling. But literally, it should just chew. And like the Amazing Zaming shit's it's like never like really clarified of what it is. But look, I mean, this is all t-shirt, just reinterpreted. It's amazing. And then also just like great color palette within his collections. This next one is Rufo Research, which it was kind of a design project to highlight other like upcoming designers, and I think like Raf Simons has done one. But this one was done by AF Vandervoos, which is similar to similar to like the Undercover collection that we saw, and they do things also similar to older on the Mula Meester, and like Alexander McQueen. So there's a theme of like what I'm enjoying here. And this one is supposedly kind of like riffing off of biker culture, which I think is interesting because to me, these don't look like bikers. These look like they look like bohemian kind of people from like the 70s. But I wouldn't guess like biker was their cult. That being said, it's a largely fur collection, fur and leather, which I'm always a fan of, and I'm always a fan of the bohemian look. If this was a biker, this is like Viking biker. This is like Icelandic biker. You know what I mean? But it's still very cool. I enjoy the works of the leather. They even go to an extent of there's like pants that look like corduroy here, but they're actually just leather that's treated to look a certain way. So yeah, very cool collection. Like I said, it's wearable. You just look, but you would just look different with it. You know what I mean? Like there's fur vests out there, but you wouldn't exactly like see one like this that looks almost non-luxury and almost utilitarian or essential in the way it's made. Like it wasn't made to look fancy. It was made to just keep you warm. And there's a certain aspect of that I just I do really like. So yeah, just very cool shit. Very cool shit. I'm gonna move on here. This next one is Giorgio Armani. And what haven't I said about Giorgio Armani by now? Giorgio Armani, spring 1998. Giorgio Armani is an American classic, one of the great American artists, designers, whatever you want to call them, right up there with Tom Ford and Rick Owens, and Ralph Lauren. But Giorgio Armani is the OG. He is the beast. He is modern man personified, and he has not stopped going in since he started. Yes, I'm glazing the fuck out this nigga because he's actually underrated even after saying all that. You look at his clothes and you can see this in any avant-garde designer, and yet he's mainstream. You know what I mean? Like, I think that people, if you enjoy a Yohji Yamamoto, you should be able to have a fondness for Giorgio Armani. And I say this to people that enjoy avant-garde. I think if you are not acknowledging Giorgio Armani, you're missing out on just appreciating somebody who's still here and still alive. At his blessed age. Like I said, there's not enough I can say about Giorgio Armani's designs. Don't know why my shit is like flying all over the place, but yeah. What the fuck is wrong with my computer? My only gripe I would say is that just like Ralph Lauren and just like a lot of, just like any other brand, it's only the thing that he's been around for so long that it's more than anybody else. But the market, in any regard of the selling market, I'm sure it's fine. Like, it's whatever, because it's the selling market. It's a lot more direct and you can get that shit. But the like resale markets, it's just oversaturated. The secondhand markets is just oversaturated of, that just might not all be quality. Not necessarily like it's not like quality or build quality, but it's, probably not like the runway looks, you know what I mean? Because they all just have like mass retail after a certain extent. So that's my only gripe with it. But other than that, I mean, he's just fucking insane. I will link my write-up about older men's fashion, titled The Pillars of Masculinity. But yeah, Giorgio Armani and Aldo Fali were just an undefeated duo as far as menswear and men's aesthetic of the past. And like I said, man, he's been a dog. He's been a dog. You just have to respect him. I'm sorry. Like, this is insane to me. Like, this is a vibe. This is a depiction of an evil man, and not in a disrespectful way. It's just an amazing uniform to give somebody. Like, this could literally be Satan himself. He's so vibey. But yeah, I'll take a bow. That was my glaze for the day. You could tell how passionate I am at fucking 6:31 a.m. right now, and the sun is up. It's rising. It's blue outside. If you get me. Gianfranco Fieri is another legend of fashion and menswear in general. Although his menswear collections aren't as voluminous as Giorgio Armani's, but I wanted to pick up on this one because I think that this is another example of. Stop the fuck up my computer. This is another example. Thank you. For whatever reason, images that aren't the same size, you can't hit next on them. Whoever the fuck thought of that. Of a fantasy edge to edgy fashion itself. Because again, this could be the Matrix. It could also be a video game. What's the difference, I guess? And it feels like every designer has, not every designer, but there are designers that have this certain tone for like maybe one or two collections, and it doesn't feel consistent enough. The romanticism theme, or the luxuriousness, or the bombasticness of these collections just don't seem, just based off the pattern, I can't think of the word, like, it doesn't seem like a thing that you can continue to do. I would say someone that did this on a level to this bombasticness. I'm just gonna keep saying that. It's not the best word, but maybe just the romantic ideal of it, the romanticism of it. It's like a handful that can just give you like just such like lush layering, and again, romanticism, as I understand it, has been like maybe Eder Ackerman, Alexander McQueen for sure. He had this like textured collections where it's just a lot going into this. Balmain, yeah. There's not a lot. It's not a lot. It's always impressive to me when you can do something like this, and a lot of people can do this maybe on a lower level. Like, I think Undercover had this to an extent, but it wasn't as luxury looking. Undercovers was more grungy and culty, and felt more DIY, whereas like the bohemianism of these, the romanticism of these, the luxury of these, all layered into a collection, feels rare. Damn, I'm mad I couldn't think of the word though. I'm mad I couldn't think of the word, but on to the next one. This is a Ralph Lauren collection. This is the best representation of Ralph Lauren I could find, which is a mostly underseen Ralph Lauren collection. You won't find this one on Vogue, as you can see, and this is one of his early collections, where this isn't even necessarily a runway, but it is a good example that I have also had in my write up of older men's fashion. It is just manhood to an extent. Just the example of masculinity, modern manhood, modern masculinity, etc., where it's just a man about town is the general theme of this. It's nothing bombastic. There are what I think here is amazing layers. It's a boyish look, but it's cool. Um, where you have RLX, which was kind of like a showing of his more sporty line. What it wasn't Ralph Lauren Sport. It was Ralph Lauren X. um, layered under a contrasting blazer. Um, cool shit. And then here you go, more of it where it's more sportiness, but you've got, like you can see in the background, there's sweaters layered under like a leather raincoat. Um, yeah, I think there's this. It's just a good one, man. It's just a good one. You have like chill shit like this, where it's just always my thing. Where it's just wearability. It's just, oh, this guy has just, he looks clean. You know what I mean? This guy just extra vibey. You've got the Ken Griffey Nikes on the feet. It's a lot of things, not only foreshadowing what Rick, not I'm sorry, what Ralph is to like culture, um, but it was also kind of just, it's so idealized that it was never even like that well replicated. The best we got was the guys that were like heavy into polo, the polo sporting goods guys. But even then, they weren't really mixing it up like this, like a collar shirt, ball cap, layered under a long jacket, like track pants, activewear pants, and Griffies. I don't know if there's any style page covering that, like saying these are the trends that are coming up this year, or that I like to see on guys. I think this is really interesting. It's just not happening. Vibey, nigga. And he's got the fucking Walkman on his head, my nigga. If it's a nigga on the street, you can't tell him shit. He's Aura God 5,000. What you saying, Krosky? The next one. This one is Carol Christian Powell. Carol Christian is a very interesting designer. This is Carol Christian Male Spring 1995. It's literally as short as these 4 slides because of good luck trying to find an actual lookbook for Carol Christian or runway, besides the fact that he did one where there were male bodies floating down the river. I do think it's awesome, but it almost feels less about the clothes, you know. This one specifically, maybe I have a soft spot for it because this jacket right here, I did own it at some point. Holy Grail, yes I did, and I had to sell it because I'm broke. But again, Carol Christian is a very interesting designer. They say it's anti-fashion, and I hate anything that's just called anti-it when it contributes to it, in any function as in art or industry. Whereas Carol Christensen does conform to the ideal of luxury because a lot of this shit is not affordable. Even if it's not that wearable to a certain extent, a lot of his clothes, as people don't want to admit, can be ill-fitting because of the exaggerated proportions. There are very restrictive shoulders, sweaters that conform to a very specific body type even more than the usual fashion. So, in fact, if you were to say it was something other than fashion, pseudo fashion, it would be anti fashion. It would almost be ultra fashion, because fashion, for the most part, has been an example to show off luxury and ideals that you have to conform to, maybe not purposefully, but subconsciously. We know the patterns of slim bodies, people having to sacrifice their bodies to fit in certain clothing, etc., etc. But that being said, he's always had very cool shit, very different ideas how to approach these things, where he's injected blood into coats to make a certain pattern. Um, Coats that you have to treat because they give off a certain smell because the leather's so raw. The drip sneakers with the wax coming off of them that probably aren't that fun to to stand in. That being said, I'm a fan. Next is Marchin. Marchin Spring 2002. Why do I like this collection? This collection reminds me of maybe what I would. Holy shit. Let's reset this camera real quick. Alright. Marchin gives me the vibes of what I wish like a Junior Wonton, or not Junior, but a Comme des Garçons to be. And this collection was pretty much just, I think, just shown on Instagram. And this came after a big boom of like Shanghai and Korea Fashion Week. This was a time when Vogue was not really covering these parts of the world. And so only like a few people on Twitter were covering these things. And even then, it was not all of it. I took it to myself to go through a lot of pages at these times this season before to seek out the information in these brands. And to me, this is a favorite collection, not just because of the aesthetics of it and how those aesthetics set precedent for the trends that we see still now. In 2005, they started it. Nobody was covering it. And to see the reaction and enthusiasm that people had to these things and of it growing has left a mark on me. That I don't think I ever want to forget this. My contribution to it, I'm not going to lie, yes. But just how it's changed its presence in the fashion landscape. So Shanghai Fashion Week, Korea Fashion Week, shout out, hey, I love it. And I don't even know if they'll reach those peaks again just because of, no, they will. I won't say they won't. They will. Because it would be good for them globally to have a moment like that again. All right. The next one is the Fallen from Grace brand, Dolce & Gabbana. This one, again, we're talking about modern men. We're talking about peak men's runway designs. This is Italian design at its finest, and you probably never find these on resale. Don't know where they are, don't know where they went, but nigga, I've looked. Aside from that, I love the moodiness of this. It gives the Covenant, it gives Final Destination, it gives rival schools. It's awesome. It just looks good. Everything's fucking clean and tight knit. Like, wow. Oh my. You know what I mean? The I don't know what to call it. I guess I don't know if this is like a garter belt or a medical belt, but outside the jacket, like it's cool. Again, layered under the blazer, and it's not even like it's just a very casual look. You know what I mean? It's a blazer, but it's casual. Not saying like that. That's like they reinvented the wheel, but it's just some cool shit. You know what I mean? Then you got these big ass furry pants, nigga. Fire on top of a sweater with an open side. Just cozy shit all around. Love the I would say colorway. I mean that is it, but the just the tone that they went with the colors. Everything about it is cool as fuck. That's Dolce & Gabbana Fall 1999. I feel like I didn't say that at first, but that's what it is. Moving right along, we've got Maison Margiela Fall. I don't even know if this is Fall. This is Maison Margiela line 10 to be specific. Maison Margiela Fall 1999. And the importance of this one is that there wasn't always a men's line to Margiela. And when it was, he always liked to categorize things. So the line 10 was for the men's. This one is the very infamous, was it 5-zip jacket? As also seen worn by Brad Pitt in Ocean's 11. And then there's these clogs. I have seen these listed online. There are painted clogs, as a lot of Margiela pieces are painted over, but they're painted white clogs. Line 10 again. This one, not even, there is some aspects of modern men, but what draws me to these is the retrospective of it and the way that Margiela always, in a way, drew from the 70s, and his vintage stuff would feel sometimes otherworldly, in a way that it felt almost more vintage than it was at the time. And so, when I see things like this, I think of like 70s, not even blockbuster movies, but deep cuts of like movies like Friends of Eddie Coyle, or like I think it's like old Italian movie called like Cult 68 or something like that. Just things like that it feels more reminiscent of. And in a lot of his collections, they just feel, you could, if you are in the 70s movies, you can see the reference. And as a fan of that era of film and fashion, that kind of shit speaks to me. So, and to go further into the Maison Margiela archive here, we have another Margiela collection. This one is Maison Margiela 1999 or 1993. I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. Bonk. This one was an example of Margiela's creativity blossoming at the time. As you say, this is a review by Laird Borelli Pearson. And basically, this one was basically a two collection. And what what I mean by that was he sent out two invitations. One that was white, and it would leave you to a show with white clothes. And if you got the black one, the black invitation, you would get an invitation to a show with black clothes, and they were running simultaneously, but your own invitation only got you into that designated show. Now, my feelings on Marcella in general. This is another person I do glaze a lot. Not as much outwardly as much as I have as Giorgio Armani. Maybe because Giorgio Armani is underrated, and Marcella, there's not a person that really has bad thoughts about Marcella. Marcella, to me, when I see these collections, they do give fantasy to me. These were inspired by the studied woman, the library girl, but it almost feels, when I imagine clothes and scenarios a lot, my mind goes to action scenarios and fighters and killers even, and this does to me fit into these categories. I am a big fan of his repurposing. I think nobody does it like him, but they do try to take from him. Marcella is one of those minds where I wish I had his thoughts. This one, people would say, the reviewers would say it fits into romanticism. Me, I wouldn't have spotted that, and I don't necessarily label it that, even though it might be, and it might even be even more on the nose than the ones I spoke to be romanticism. This one is this screen grab right here. This picture is a better example of it. The fact that romanticism deals with not just individuality, but aspects of nature, and putting nature on a necklace is the romanticism of it, surrounded by gilded arms. It's almost cliche how on the nose it is. I don't know if I just said a dumbass sentence saying that, but that being said, it works. It's very cool. The romanticism on the necklace being that it's putting it on a pedestal, it's putting it on display. It's like, this is what is sacred to me, as we wear pendants and jewelry often of like lovers, or it was given to us, or to represent ourselves, our style, and what we wish to honor. And in this case, it being like a wreath. Not to mention just his overall display of layering being awesome, flawless, almost simple in display, and still effective, deeply polished, I would say. I really don't have enough to say about Marcella, in a way that, like this jacket right here, he might not have even made it, but he had like an idea for it, an outfit, where, because I look at this and it looks worn, like it looks beyond its years. And he could have like it could have even been a design that didn't had looked like that, and he just added like more detail to it. But regardless, there's just a timelessness and an otherworldliness to the aspects of these collections. I think there's one more collection either before or after this one. Um, that just, they have me in a chokehold forever. Um, Maison Margiela is a master, and I wish he'd come back to fashion, but I don't know. Seems he's kind of over it. But it's not like he could literally go anywhere. I don't think anybody would not have him. Um, and I'd even like oh my god, like this is like it's just like I don't even know like what the fuck like he just was like putting so much cool shit together like the tabby never gets old, bro. The tabby is what like makes it so other. You know what I mean? Because it's a heel tabby. On top of whatever this dress is, almost cult like, almost like Roman or Greek, but almost like French. When you get to like vests like these, it's in its own world. Yeah, Maison Margiela. Here we have a graduation collection fall. Actually, I don't know if this is the graduation collection, but this is a fall 2019. This is another one that has a more I have a more personal relationship with this one than the rest of them, just because I've had the chance of interacting with the designer on some type of level. I was hired under creative consulting at a certain point for Psy, and if I'm correct, it was probably after seeing this collection and expressing my enthusiasm for it. It's still a very cool collection and an example of some of the trends that people have been trying to follow since. Um, I'm always a fan of like the hats. I wish I could have got a hat from this collection. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody with one of these hats, but I believe when I talked to them, I think they were selling them in London. Um, but obviously I don't live in London. Uh, but yeah, Asai, if you're watching this, buddy, I need like one of these hats. I need one of these hats. You see this? You see this brown one on the left? You see that one? That one's fire. If you want to send me that one, that one's fire, buddy. That one's fire. I always fucking love these hats, dude. But yeah, the hats are fire. This big coat was always tough. The leather pants, great. The fucking trench coat here, sick. Um, Good God. Um, and my biggest like it's not even a regret, but I feel like COVID did kind of stop this brand from really blossoming how it should have. But Asai won't fold. Asai, keep on moving, buddy. Um, but yeah, that was a collection that I covered. One of the student collections that when there was a time of people rarely covering them, I was definitely on that. Um, Now for this next one, this is Raf Simon's Fall 2002. this one is another representation of the whole. Ralph Simons is another big contributor to how fashion is perceived today in the male landscape of trying to converge the street aesthetic. And I think I don't even think this collection, particularly when I was a big Ralph Simons fan, was of any importance to me. But now when I'm looking at it in retrospect, I think it fits within the category of modern man. And I would, this is this like from top to bottom. I think these would be cool looks to just be seen in, um, and photographed in, and just to kind of to live in. Um, it to an extent reminds me of the movie Catherine Bigelow's Point Break, and there's this scene where like the surfers and the cops are headed down to this big to just the surfers are headed down to the swim this big typhoon that's like deadly. They want to surf that shit, and the cops are pulling up waiting for them because they're not just surfers, they were criminals as well. um and there's a little bit of that utility, the ulterior, oh my god, the the utilitarianism in here, um mixed with like an urban aspect of it that I really do enjoy. And Ralph Simons, like I said, he's just I was originally going to use one of his Calvin Klein collections, but for some reason these speak a lot more to me because I do think they feel a little bit more down to earth. Um Again, just shit I would just love to get my hands on. Um just very cool shit. Uh and surprisingly, I don't think he got any grief for this fucking collection. I think I heard that originally it was a they felt that it was a step down to his previous collections before this one. But for me, this is the one. I like this one. Uh, Especially like the raincoats, the rain shawls, and like all that shit. I think it's very cool. It gives it a more, like I said, down to earth aspect. Like aside from the hats, it just feels more real. Um, and I think I want to go back to just there was a time where I was drawing inspiration from Ralph Simons in different kinds of ways. Um, but I think he does have a certain outlook that I am like very like fond of, and probably always will be. So yeah, Ralph Simon, Nebraska. All right, now to the next one. I want to say this is Mumu, but we'll see about that. See which one this is. This is Mumu. This is Mumu's one of their early men's collections, and probably will always be their best men's collection. Um, None of them particularly look like this. It just has a good quality feel to it. Awesome layering. The kind of double jacket kind of thing. Um, and the quality of the clothes, the thickness of the separate layers, will always look cool to me. Here's another example of glove stacking and on top of like this houndstooth jacket, but it just like all goes together very well. Um, I feel like the newer Mumu does fit in this aesthetic. Like it does follow up where it does pick off, but there's just certain aspects that it's not fully into this. Also, this button up is pretty fucking sick, mate. Um, yeah, get me. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. We'll open that one. We're just gonna go down. There's one. I did like the shirt, but there's another one. This is. I'm gonna open that one and show you that this is like a older version of a version that they had done recently within the last few years of the Mumu male clothing resurgence. And that's kind of similar to this one as well. So this is like the older version. I still like this cut. I like the stacking that the sleeves add to it. Again, another jacket under jacket type of thing. Although I don't necessarily like this. I like the like upper half, but the bottom half of this silhouette, I'm not too much of a fan. It's just too big. We're having issues again. Just hang in there. Yeah. So yeah, here's another form-fitting sweater with a sick belt underneath. And I think that this certain cut of a sweater, it feels like at this point a Mumu men's staple, because I feel like I said, the newer collections have similar sweaters within a similar color palette as well. This might be like my favorite look, at least on the upper half, just because it kind of disregards the fact that it's a blazer, and that it's not necessarily meant to be that malleable. But again, they push up the sleeves on it, giving it an interesting silhouette. Mumu, everybody. Moo, fall 2006. And the next one is Gucci by Tom Ford. Tom Ford had a sick run at Gucci, to say the least. Tom Ford, again, like I've mentioned his name already in this video. Awesome designer. Gucci Spring 2002. Oh, I pray to God there's no nudity. I'm just not gonna click on certain shit here. You're gonna get it from this view because YouTube, guys, I can't post nudity. But I'll show these two pictures. To me, it's just a clean collection. Allegedly, it's inspired by hip hop, so the reviewer said. I look at it and I just say, really? All right. But in reality, I don't know if that's true. But if it is, I think this is a cool translation of that aesthetic. And to me, it reminds me more of Beatrice Kiddo from Kill Bill 2. It's not necessarily sporty, but it is relaxed. It's breathable. It kind of fits within those aesthetics, and it's also, it's hot, dude. It's like, Tom Ford definitely gets into like the sexiness of clothes. People try to argue down the horniness of fashion all the time. Somebody on Twitter had once said fashion isn't about who you would want to fuck, and I'm not defending the ideal, but I think that people kind of that take those kind of stances on fashion and or art in general are like horribly misled, and the involvement of sex appeal and lust and objectification in any art form. And I'm not saying and I'm not saying whether these things are good or bad, but I think that people have to acknowledge they exist. Um, Whether you feel like it's tasteful or not. But there's been repeated like instances of Tom Ford himself sexualizing the subjects that he interacts with. Like I said, not that like it's a bad thing, but it's very apparent. Here where he makes sexy women clothes even though he's not a straight male. And in his editorials, he's done the same thing with straight couples in the imagery and iconography that he uses. And even in photos with him and other women, he's acting lustful. So to take the idea of like desired sex or what's hot in a man's mind or a woman's, and to say that this doesn't exist and this kind of objectification doesn't exist in fashion is horrible misinformation. It's like puritanism to ignore the fact that this is a thing that exists and is okay in certain instances, whether whatever instances may be, you deem right or wrong is up to you. But to dismiss these ideals that they don't belong is wrong. And I think that maybe the way that they our approach could be handled differently in fashion to be more appropriate, to be respectful. But to that extent, I don't have that much knowledge on the, I guess, women's ideals on appropriate objectification and sexualization, because these are things that exist in everyone's culture, and are okay with on different scales, and some people might even say that it's not wrong that that women are spotlighted in these kinds of ways, but that it's often not equal. And fashion's case, I don't even know if that's the case, because there's also been male objectification and sexualization. So, that's not what this video is about, though. But I just wanted to bring up that point. I like horny shit. I guess that's what I'm saying. Whatever. And I think people should just stop being scared about it. They should stop trying to like bleach the earth of it in any like regard, whether it's fashion or music, any art, movies, especially movies. There's whatever. I don't know. I'll stop there. My next favorite collection is actually a guest designer collection that came from H&M, and it was with Trish Somerville, who is the costume designer for um, the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo movie, which goes along with heroin chic looks and grunginess, um, but they all look like variants from the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And I was already a fan of like some of the heroin chic stuff, but I think this may be some of my favorite personifications of that aesthetic. And so that's why I kind of have like close ups of them here, just zooming on the different like outfits that they created with the clothes they created for H&M. Um, and to this extent, I almost like not even almost. I wish that we had more of uh, Trish Somerville's aesthetics in this regard, because these to me these are just really cool, and it's like a great collection that I come back to in many instances, just trying to break it down into that digestion to put it in my own bloodstream for output. um our next one is also a very small collection that isn't a runway collection. It's a very rare Rick Owens and Chrome Hearts collection, um, to which an extent almost feels un Rick Owens like, and in connection also almost on Chrome Hearts like, converging into just very cool pieces. But as far as I know, also a very small collection. He really went like very cozy on this one, into a lot of knits that I don't think he does, like thicker knits like this, Rick Owens. Um, so it's cool to see because it gives it like a little more poshness in a way, and I don't even know if he works with like metal integrated into his knits or like tops often like that aren't just simple buttons. And then a very rare like color usage. Okay, what the fuck? Thank you. With this sweater in particular. So yeah, there's that. Sorry for the just fucking slipping and sliding all over the place. And that would lead us into our next Rick Owens collection, Rick Owens Fall 2005. This one, just a generally cool Rick Owens collection. For me, this is the culmination of all of them put together, but also early Rick Owens, to where you would also often see models sporting these kind of jackets just on the regular. To me, very similar to A.F. Vandervoos Rufo research collection that we showed earlier, which is almost like Viking biker. But then you go into these, which are more on the usual Rick Owens futuristic kind of look, dirty sci-fi, grunge sci-fi, maybe if you want to go there. And this one's actually a little clean one, but just overall, just a really concise and cool collection. just clean, sleek, all that. Our next one, Helmut Lang, a very early Helmut Lang collection. I'm not gonna zoom in here for censorship reasons, or maybe I'll just go around. But this one is more so of a modern, classic aspect on usually, normal clothing. Which, like I already expressed, I'm very appreciative of. Um, and I was never, and I still won't say I am, but not that big on suits. But man, I think if you can build a vibe with one, then hey, you got it, man. And I think these are just really cool and clean examples of what that looks like. To me, these are movie characters. That's what I see when I see this. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, just very early Helmut Lang. We're getting closer to the end here, wrapping this one up. We are pushing a little bit on the big 2 hours, but it's fine with me. Tell Yerba, let me get that cosign, you heard? This one is a John Galliano collection. John Galliano, fall of 2004. Plays on some of the on the ideals of, again, masculinity. It builds the narrative of some type of fighter of unknown circumstances, but brutalism nonetheless. Very cool. Reminds me of Fight Club a little bit. And there's just all type of like characters involved in this one. That makes it hard to draw what the narrative is. But still just very cool layering and aesthetics. Anyways. But yeah, man, very cool shit from the very controversial John Galliano. Some niggas just don't know how to chill. I'm gonna just say that. Although I think he did a good job at Marcello, despite his yeah. Another one is Baby Phat, fall 2004. Let me know in the comments which collections you guys did not expect me to go over as my favorites. This one is highlighted because there's actually a good amount of Baby Phat collections that happened, and unfortunately, they're all good. It's not unfortunate they were good, but it's unfortunate that none of these were even. I don't even know if they were considered for production. But this is not what Baby Phat is. So somebody shows you this, it's like revisionist history. Because in reality, these were runway only looks that I think just like Rihanna owns or something and has never worn. But this one is another one that's just an avatar for the general fondness I have of the existence of this brand. And I'm glad that even if it wasn't for general public, that these designs were created. Because out of a small group of people, sometimes these things just aren't made or respected in a certain view. So Kimora Lee Simmons and her team definitely did their thing with Baby Phat. And it would have been cool if this brand got a resurgence, but Just didn't last long enough. So yeah, due to knowledge, yeah. But yeah, man, fucking Baby Fat, bro, fucking cool as shit, man. So yeah, man. I mean, shit like this is like pre New Blue Marine and pre Kim Shui, and around the same time it was like Miss 60. So there was like stuff like that going around. Um, that's all I gotta say about that one. This one, we got two more after this, but this is N. the Mühlenmeister Fall 2002. So this one, again, falls under this bohemian context that I am a fan of. I believe this big Tumblr model right here. She didn't blow up off of Tumblr, but you've probably seen her pictures without knowing you've seen her pictures. Jamie Bochart, I think that's how you say her name, was in a couple and on the Mühlenmeister shows, and has an iconic spine tattoo. It's just random lore. But yeah, very cool, very bohemian. Again, falls within that Viking biker category. And it's generally just a cool collection. Holy shit, this is pissing me off how they're handling it. Sorry guys, I will lose my cool. I'm not above that. But again, there's just a certain approach to how these are made that's very cool. But there's another collection that does this but better. So this is 2002, and the one after this, 2 years later, and the Mühlenmeister Fall 2004. This one, again, I say it falls under the romanticism of it. Just because I think that the way that this is put together is just unlike usual collections, and even Andu Mühlenmeister didn't consecutively have this much of a layered collection like ever again, at least to this extent in my feelings. But there's the use of like complexity in the belt straps to the fur. Another use of the long gloves in this very warrior-like kind of outfit. But these are like gothic romanticism. But yeah, European riders. If you don't know, on the Mühlenmeister, I've spoke about this on my last the Mühlenmeister video, but like she was inspired by Patti Smith, which is like it's the rock undercurrent that is merged with this classicism, and it just equals badassery. It just equals badassery, bro. It just equals badassery, bro. I'm just not thinking about this. God damn it, this is gonna be a long ass video. Like, this shit probably won't even export when I want it to. It's gonna take mad long. But But yeah, just a very cool collection. And again, one I just feel like it just never. Not that her other collections are bad. Her collections are solid, very cool, very vibey. Um, but they never hit this kind of note again, or made this type of song again, or did this kind of album again. Um, which makes it just as special. But I think there's a difficulty to maintaining this aesthetic, as I said, throughout numerous collections. It's like it's just fashion to the extent of uniform and costume. Um, yeah, just fucking sick, bro. Um, so yeah, on to our last one. This is another. I don't know what you really want to say, fashion friend. Um, but I know Ramona through Tumblr, and this is one of like my favorite. Not only just underground collections, but just a collection I always go back to and just in reference to try and get understanding on things. But it was originally called Ramona's Behavioral Infection. Um, but Ramona changed the name of the brand to Shame. So we'll just call it Shame Fall 2002. Um, but there's different types of aesthetics going on here where you obviously see these pants and boots type of thing, inspired by, you know, equestrian aficionado or equestrian rider aesthetics. There's an animalistic nature similar to um, Alexander McQueen in here. And for context, holy shit, I had to skip past that. Please don't kill me, YouTube. Um, and so I don't know all of Ramona's references. Um, but I know for like background, she is, I believe, a former stripper. Um, and was holy shit, I'm gonna throw myself off a cliff. Got it. Sorry, it's just not shit I'm supposed to see or YouTube is supposed to see. A former stripper who, you know, had the ideals of wanting to costume strippers herself if she could find it financially feasible, or possible, I should say. Um, and her herself has an idea coming from the sex worker background being a little raunchy, which, like I said, I'm always in favor for. I don't mind sex in the art space. I think it makes it fun. I think in a world of where everything becomes sacred and how we digest things, and where ideas of violence upon any kind of object might feel wrong, or even trying to process violence that has happened to ourselves can just be jarring and still stepping on toes or anything else. Sex as a liberation and an act of freedom and fun, um, and you know, in alignment with maybe violence is a, a connection of our primal like heartstrings, what makes us feel something, um, can be exciting to me. Um, But people are a little afraid of being horny outside or expressing, that emotion or sensation outside of the confines of like their personal space. They can find that a little abrasive, but doesn't mean we should stop doing it. It's like a part of life and a thing we've always, to a certain extent, have needed to normalize. I would say, at least in current times. I can't speak for before, but even then, if like certain celebrities would dress provocative, there would be people clutching their pearls. Um, so yeah, I've said a lot of shit in this overview of my favorite collections. I hope I've made it some fun shit for everybody watching. It's now 7:38, which means I started at about 5 in the morning making this. Have a good day.